This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody. 1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. I am Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. We've got a special interview to kick things off with this podcast with Steve Wiltfong, our On3 GOAT, one of the GOATs out there in the recruiting world, coming in to join us. But first, we are presented by our friends at StatusJet, statusjet.com. Reach out to them today and talk to David Henry and his team. Mention the code PonyUpACC. Get a discount on that round trip flight for you, your family, your friends, your business associates, whatever you want. That code can be used. Make sure you talk through your options with them. They will plan out an incredible journey for you. No matter where you want to go, they can get you there. They have contacts all over the world. If you're in a pinch with another private jet charter company and need to make a change on a trip, they can work something out and get you back home or wherever you needed to be right when you needed to get there. So reach out to our friends at StatusJet today and plan your next unforgettable trip. And we bring in now Steve Wiltfong of On3. Steve, you are one of the busiest men out there in the industry, so appreciate a few minutes of your time. What is SMU been doing to gain some of this momentum in the recruiting trail after this big Pony Express weekend?
Bill, what's going on, man? I see you working hard too on a couple of the beats that you're grinding on and doing a lot of management stuff behind the scenes. So excited to be on here with you talking SMU football, and what they're doing is playing great football on Saturdays. That's where it begins, right? This is a program that had a top 20 offense, number 16 in the country, a top 20 defense, number 12 in the country. And when you watch them play, both schemes are a lot of fun to play in, and it's attracting kids. And then you're moving to the ACC, where you have a chance to instantly walk into that conference and I think be uber competitive, which then puts you in position to make the college football playoff. That's very exciting for a prospect. Then you throw in the city of Dallas. I mean, I've been on SMU's campus. I've been inside that football stadium on that field. It's a very intimate, awesome setting to play your college football in one of the best cities in the country for one of the top young up-and-coming coaching staffs in America. It's resonating with kids because these coaches are bringing that energy to the trail. They're passionate about SMU. And then the final piece is that there is a lot of backing with this SMU program in the era that we're in, the NIL era. I think that there is a lot of infrastructure that is going SMU's way on the trail as well. So this is a program that's got a top 25 recruiting class right now, number 22 in the On3 recruiting rankings. And for me, I kind of hover around the biggest stories in recruiting, right? So I haven't written much about SMU over the last couple decades, but over the last couple weeks, I've been grinding on the beat with you, man, and it's been a lot of fun, and got another story coming on Devin Ferris and his official visit over the weekend. And then I think I finally have exhausted my SMU coverage from the Pony Express weekend, but I know we'll be reconvening the weekend of June 7th when SMU brings in more top targets.
Yeah, catch him on the Wiltfong whip around from the national side of things for On3. That is where you dropped a ton of coverage just coming off of that big weekend. Let's lead off with some of your new On3 RPM picks. And let's start with Jalen Cooper, 4-star wide receiver out of the state of Texas. You talked with him. What stood out to you when he broke down how that visit went for him?
Yeah, well, talking to him and then talking to some sources that spent time with him, I think it's SMU that's setting the pace in this recruitment for really one of the more dynamic pass catchers. Receptions for over 1,600 yards and 23 touchdowns for one of the best high school football programs in the country. He's a scheme fit. he's got a lot of upside, and he's a culture fit because of where he comes from. And he just loved the environment. Talked about the coaching staff making everybody feel welcome. And again, touched on the momentum going to the ACC. He said he thinks SMU can win it all the marbles, Billy. And if they land guys like Jalen Cooper, they'll certainly have a chance to win the ACC and put them in touch with that. You know, he likes the way the coaches speak to the players. He likes the family environment around there, likes the detail-oriented approach with SMU football. You know, there's some other contenders, Oklahoma State and such, but as of right now, I think SMU's the one to beat.
And they need receiver help, losing 6 receivers after this season. Let's stay on receiver for a brief moment and look back. You talked with Taz Williams and his family as well. What stood out to you about your conversation with the Red Oak standout, another 4-star prospect that SMU has hosted in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so they had Taz Williams on campus that weekend, and they also had Dalen McCutcheon on campus that weekend. And I know that Taz Williams and his family really enjoyed being in town with the SMU coaching staff, and you know, he talked about the new facilities coming, the 2025 quarterback Keelon Russell being committed is a big deal. Getting a chance to play with him was another element, and he enjoyed on his visit being able to bond with the players and get a feel for what it would be like to be a football player at SMU. Michigan, Texas A&M, Penn State, Arkansas, some of the other contenders there for Taz Williams Jr., but certainly SMU is going to have he talked about them losing the 6 wide receivers, and he said it could be 7 if Jordan Hudson goes to the NFL too. Does that math check out for you, Billy?
Yeah, that does. The receiver is a massive priority for the Mustangs. They got Xavier Johnson this past weekend. They have Dalen Singleton, another one of the top slot players in the country. But let's flip over to defense. They've been able to make some waves with how they've turned around defense on the Hilltop with Scott Simons and his crew. Another On3 RPM went in for Houston area linebacker Caleb Burns out of Cy Falls. They've been able to produce some talent over the years. What stood out to you about Caleb Burns, who didn't end up making a commitment? Sounds like he might take a couple visits, but SMU, again, probably standing out as the leader here.
Yeah, well, he told me that SMU is the leader, loved the environment. Like Holmes said, they have good things ahead of them. He said they're building a dynasty. He set the expectation high. And look, this is another guy that is you know, some of these guys, when you look at recruiting and you look back at who are the guys that get drafted, the guys that were ranked the highest or whatever, you know, and Caleb Burns is a guy flirting with 4-star territory and On3, man. But you turn on his film, Bill, 18.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions. This guy's an absolute playmaker that brings pass rush ability from the second level of the defense. He would be a major pickup for SMU, and they're setting the tone there. Could also be setting the tone there for Keandre Johnson, who's an edge rusher from Terrell High, another guy who makes a living behind the line of scrimmage, 18 tackles for loss, 10 sacks as a junior.
And SMU's been pushing a long time there for Keandre Johnson, one of the top local talents for SMU on their board. Let's flip over, though, to the offense again. And big picture here, Keelon Russell was back on campus. Hey, it's the new era of SMU. You know, they go offense, defense. They actually play both sides of the ball. It's not just producing on offense these days. Keelon Russell, though, was back on campus. Give your national take on Keelon and kind of where he's at in the process, because, you know, getting back on campus was a big deal for him. He's been consistently on campus this spring. Some big programs are after him, but if there is almost a must win for SMU to make that big statement complete, it's keeping Keelan in this class.
Keelan Russell would be a major addition to this program as they try and take the next step. Obviously, I hate to say any recruit for any program is must get. We've seen SMU be prolific on offense without Keelan Russell. So I think that's what's exciting for him, is to think about his potential playing for this coaching staff with what they've been able to do historically with offense and the quarterback position. Certainly, with the magnitude of what he's ranked, how that could help peer recruiting's a game of inches. So you add Keelon Russell, who's arguably the best dual threat quarterback in the country, plays against the best high school competition in the land. So he is seasoned. He is battle tested. He is, there's no moment too big for Keelon Russell. And so he's the guy that, could help SMU certainly as they go to that next big stage, be a difference maker for them for a lot of reasons. Look, Ole Miss is a school that I look at as a potentially scary one for SMU because they actually were the first major program on him. He's been there a couple times, including in spring, and there's a lot for them to boast offensively too. But SMU is close in proximity. The branding that he could have being a local star under center at SMU, I think there's limitless off-field potential for what local SMU vendor type companies would do to help him earn NIL dollars while he is under center at SMU. The potential is unbelievable, I think, there. But Ole Miss has done a really good job recruiting him. You got to salute them. They offered him before he had a massive junior season and got him on campus before he had a massive junior season. And the relationships with Ole Miss are authentic also. And then certainly Alabama, Florida, Oregon, also in contention there. But he understands what it is at SMU. He loves the coaching staff, loves he knows what that opportunity means for him. And SMU's right there, that he's committed to them. So it's up to these other programs to change that. But it was a big weekend for him at SMU. Josh Newberg asked me if SMU wasted their official visit too early on him because of the other suitors. And I'm like, nah, because he can get to SMU whenever. He can have a official visit-like experience whenever he wants at SMU. But to get him in that atmosphere this past weekend when there was so much excitement around the program and it wasn't your traditional visit where you're checking out academics and looking at the dorms. Now, they got to go into the new facilities, which is awesome, before they move into them 3-4 months in advance. So he got to experience that, but really just getting around the coaching staff in an environment that allowed them to be laid back, get around all the potential recruits, kind of help recruit those guys, which invests you more into the SMU program. Hey, I'm recruiting these guys to come play with me. I'm invested in this. I think is big for SMU, and he'll certainly be back on campus unofficially a bunch of times leading up to putting pen to paper. And it's big boy recruiting now. SMU's in the ACC. They land good players. People are going to try and flip them, and SMU's going to try and flip people committed elsewhere. And they got a little more juice behind them on the trail now because of the league they're playing in and because of the support that they're getting from alumni and local businesses that are vested in SMU football.
You let's wrap up with this. You spoke with Rhett Lashlee going into the weekend. Obviously, it was a big success for them. 4 new commitments: Sile Reyes, Zay Gentry, Xavier Johnson, Drew Hill. You nailed those predictions as well. Look, let's talk about what he's feeling in terms of the energy around the program. Reading your story with him going into it, he felt it. He said they were going to have some fun. What's your read on Rhett Lashlee, the recruiter, as a head coach for this program and where he has them headed overall?
Well, Rhett's always been a good recruiter wherever he's been. And, he pointed towards being a GA at Auburn and being kind of part of the brain study that put Big Cat Weekend into place at Auburn and has kind of been mimicked nationally by many other schools. And that's kind of the foundation of SMU and the Pony Express Weekend that they just had. I mean, Coach Lashlee understands that recruiting is the lifeblood of the program, and everybody says that. But it's one thing to create a recruiting board and be invested. Hey, these are our top targets. Well, that doesn't mean shit, Billy, if you're not going to go out and recruit your top targets hard. So they have a board that they've put together of guys that they think can help them win the ACC. these 24 players that they had on campus this past weekend, none of them were Plan B recruits. These are top of the board guys that they want to land to help them go to the next level, and they're going to recruit those guys hard. Those guys are important to them. They think that they need these guys to help them get where they're trying to go, and so they evaluated them, and now Coach Lashlee knows, hey, we need to build that personal connection with these guys, and it starts with him. They got to know me, the head coach, and he sets that tone for the rest of his coaching staff. And I think he hired a lot of like-minded individuals that love recruiting, that are fully vested. You know, guys like Mo Crum. I covered Mo Crum a long time ago when he was at Notre Dame in South Bend. So it's just wild how things work. But he's put together a coaching staff of youth, guys with great energy, guys that have a passion for recruiting, guys that have a passion for SMU. They all enjoy working together, and recruits feel that energy and continuity. And it kind of made me think of Keelan DeBoer a little bit, and just kind of the environment he creates around the places he's worked. You get that kind of sense and feel with SMU and their coaching staff that they all love working together, and so the players feel that, and then certainly the recruits feel that.
Well, awesome stuff as always from Steve. We will have to have you back on, of course, as SMU's not done. Like you said, that June 7th weekend is already stacking up some top talent as well. Thank you for following along with us on the Pony Express weekend, and our subscribers sure appreciate it.
Look, I just hope everybody has as good a weekend as SMU did this past weekend for the Pony Express weekend, and the weekend that I'm going to have at the Indianapolis 500 this weekend here, the Memorial Day weekend in Indianapolis. You guys take care. Have a good holiday weekend, and we'll see y'all soon on the Pony Express.
Enjoy it, Steve. Thanks for stopping by.
Yep.
There you go. Steve Wiltfong stopping by the On the Pony Express podcast. Huge to have Steve on our team. Him and Chad Simmons do it as well as anybody in terms of the national coverage. So appreciate them stopping by. Before we go any further on the podcast, as we have major basketball breaking news, let's remind you guys about our friends at StatusJet. StatusJet.com. They can get you to any SMU game you want to. That is what they're all about, is really this big push to help you and your friends, your family, get out to see the Ponies this fall. So reach out to them. Start making plans for the fall with StatusJet. Again, that code PonyUpACC or mention On the Pony Express is the way to save a little bit on this experience as well. And they're really doing a great job in terms of helping everybody get to and from their destination in a exceptional way, which is that first class opportunity to fly private, whether it's big plane, small plane. They can fly you to remote tropical destinations or to wherever the Mustangs are playing. So reach out to our friends at StatusJet for more information. Look, right before the podcast dropped with Steve, I was hustling to get this story on board, and that is that SMU landed another basketball transfer. And the Mustangs did get Tibet Gorener, which I might have butchered that name again, but the Turkish-born wing has committed to SMU. He's actually already signed with the program. And so that is the 7th transfer edition for Andy Enfield and his staff. Tibet began his career at Arizona, then transferred after the 2020-2021 season to play for San Jose State. And he has really jumped on board there and been a constant contributor for the Spartans. He is the all-time leader in three-pointers made for San Jose State. He started all 32 games last season. He's about listed 6'9" on the San Jose State website. He averaged 11.4 points while shooting 39% from the field. He averaged 3.9 rebounds per game. Again, 174 all-time threes made. He's played in over 90 games with 55 starts for San Jose State. For his career, again, 4 seasons of college basketball. The first year at Arizona didn't count, with that being the COVID year. Averaged 7.8 points, 2.9 rebounds per game, while shooting 37% from the field for his career. That makes 7 transfers for the Mustangs: Oregon guard Cario Oquendo, Long Beach State guard A.J. George, Wake Forest point guard Boopy Miller, UMass forward Matt Cross, UC Santa Barbara big Johan Traore, and Kansas State big man Jarrell Colbert. So SMU gets another addition from the transfer portal. He's an older player who can shoot, has had some big games against good teams, and that's what really helped the Mustangs go all in on him. We talked about with Samuel Williamson departing and now Jaheim Hudson moving on, they needed somebody to step into that 3 spot and really help them right away. And they find that. Again, another one-year player. Andy Enfield and his staff in that 2025 class are going to have plenty of roster spots to fill in the coming year or so. So they'll be probably active once again in the transfer portal. They'll heavily push on some of their top high school targets, of course, as well. They've had 6 4-star prospects on campus in the last 5 days. We've had it all covered at ontheponyexpress.com. Subscribe for just $1 for your first 2 months with the code SMU1. That's SMU, the number 1, to get that inside info on Andy Enfield and his staff and the work they're doing. But look, this program is now 1 scholarship spot away, I believe, from getting its entire roster filled. They have the 2 high school additions. That makes 9 newcomers for this program overall. And SMU basketball is getting closer to being done with that 2024-2025 roster that they have. They have returners B.J. Edwards, Chuck Harris, and Keon Ambrose Hilton. So 1 scholarship spot remaining for SMU basketball. We'll see where they end up going with that final roster piece. Could it be a long-term play at guard? Could it be a big man if they can find one that can start as a true center? We'll see where SMU basketball finds another player. But once again, a player who averaged double-digit points this past season is coming to play for SMU, and a veteran, 90 plus games just in the last 3 seasons with 55 starts. So a really intriguing addition there for the Turkish-born player to now end up at SMU. So we'll be tracking their final edition for this roster very closely. So stay tuned to ontheponyexpress.com. We said it. There were going to be guys that kind of came out of nowhere and committed. Well, Tibet Gorener is the latest. So Andy Enfield and his staff get a big addition on this Wednesday that we're recording this podcast. The days just kind of keep running together. But look, excited to get another podcast recorded here this afternoon. I will tell you guys it'll be a fun one, so don't miss out. A special friend of ours is joining the podcast again, and so we're excited to jump on board with that later this week, so stay tuned. But that wraps it up for basketball. In terms of football, SMU football remains on the hunt for another transfer addition. On that front, the Mustangs do need cornerback help. We'll be tracking that, of course. And football recruiting is plenty of top targets are reacting to their official visit weekend. That is all coming at ontheponyexpress.com. But look, going to get you guys out of here with that. Wanted to bring Steve Wiltfong on and have him chat with us. And of course, Steve brought the goods as always. So hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. We'll be back maybe with another, we'll do the insider recruiting one for our subscriber only podcast and really go in depth there. Either Thursday or Friday, we'll drop that. But excited to drop another podcast for you guys on Thursday for sure with a special guest. So hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the On the Pony Express podcast. Catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody. Follow us on your socials on X at SMU On3 and on Instagram at On3SMU. And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.